Chi-Town, are you ready for the hustle? We start with a backup who crushed the Chiefs and made millions. This isn't a movie, it's Bears football. Meanwhile, an ex-player wastes time criticizing our QB1 socks. Seriously, socks. But the real deal is in the numbers ESPN hides. Why the league is scared. And to top it all off, Ryan Poles cut a WR who played 22 times in Green Bay. Our roster is so tough that leftover Packers don't stick. 2025 is going to change the game. Or are you going to keep reliving 1985? Sign up, hit like, and find out why this season will be the party in Chicago. Before we dive into the details of this spectacular performance, you need to understand the historical magnitude of what we're witnessing. Tyson Bagent joined the Bears as an undrafted quarterback from a university most people have never heard of. Shepherd University, a Division II school in West Virginia. When Bagent signed as an undrafted free agent in 2023, expectations were zero. Most analysts thought he'd be cut before training camp ended. But you know what happened? This guy simply refused to play a bit part. In preseason, week 3 of 2025, when the Bears faced the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, one of the NFL's most hostile environments, Tyson Bagent didn't just play. He dominated, and I'm going to break down every aspect of this performance so you understand why the entire league is paying attention. First, the raw numbers: 20 completions on 28 attempts for 212 passing yards and 3 touchdown passes plus 10 rushing yards. But folks, numbers don't tell the whole story. Let's talk about how he achieved those numbers. The first touchdown came in the first quarter. A perfectly placed 15-yard pass in the corner of the end zone where only the receiver could reach. The defensive read was surgical. Bagent identified the man coverage and attacked exactly where he knew he'd have an advantage. The second touchdown was even more impressive. Third down with 7 to the touchdown, Kansas City bet on a blitz, sending 6 pass rushers against 5-man protection. Bagent not only identified the blitz before the snap, but also adjusted the protection and still found the receiver in perfect timing for a 12-yard touchdown. But it was the third touchdown, folks, that sealed the legend of this night. Fourth quarter, Bears trailing 27-22. 2 minutes and 37 seconds on the clock. Third down with 8 to the end zone. The pressure was max. It was literally now or never. Kansas City sent a defense that all analysts would say is unbeatable. Double coverage on the top 2 receivers, linebacker Spy and Bagent to avoid scrambles, and still this guy found Jade Walker on a perfect slant route for the game-winning touchdown. Here's the part that left the entire NFL slack-jawed, folks. Right after this performance, Ryan Poles offered Bagent a 2-year extension worth $10 million. For a backup quarterback, that's serious money, and I'll explain why this decision is genius. First, let's talk market. Competent backup quarterbacks are earning between $3 to $8 million a year right now. Gardner Minshew signed for $8.5 million annually with Las Vegas. Jacoby Brissett is earning $6 million in New England. Poles offered $5 million annually to Bagent, which might seem like a lot, but really it's a bargain when you consider the potential. Second, this extension gives total stability for Caleb Williams' development. Knowing they have a reliable backup, the coaching staff can focus 100% on Williams' development without worrying about what happens if he gets injured or needs bench time to adjust. Third, and perhaps most important, this extension sends a clear message to the entire locker room. Exceptional performances are rewarded regardless of where you were drafted or which university you came from. This creates a meritocratic culture that will elevate every player's game. Did you see the footage of Bagent receiving the news of the extension? The guy literally cried, folks. And no wonder. We're talking about a young man who 2 years ago was wondering if he'd ever get a chance in the NFL. And now he has $10 million guaranteed for the next 2 years. But the impact goes way beyond financial. This story is inspiring quarterbacks from smaller universities across the country. Bagent proved that with hard work, dedication, and seizing opportunities, you can reach the top no matter where you started. And for us Bears fans, this extension represents something even bigger. We finally have an organization that recognizes and rewards talent when they see it. How many times have we seen the franchise let players slip away who then shone with other teams? With polls in this new administration, that era is over. For you to understand the rarity of what Bagent achieved, let's make some historical comparisons. Since 2000, only 4 undrafted quarterbacks have had similar performances in their first 2 years. Tony Romo, Kurt Warner, Warren Moon, and now Tyson Bagent. The difference is Bagent is doing this in an era where scouting is more advanced, where every college player is analyzed down to the smallest detail. The fact that he went unnoticed and is now shining shows there's still room for overcoming odd stories in modern football. Folks, you won't believe the nonsense I'm about to tell you. Sam Acho, ex-linebacker who played for the Chicago Bears from 2015 to 2016 and is now an ESPN analyst, decided to use his time on national TV to criticize Caleb Williams for, wait for it, the length of his socks. That's right, you heard me. In a segment analyzing the Bears' preseason performance, Acho spent precious airtime talking about how Williams wearing half socks is indicative of sloppiness and lack of leadership. I swear I'm not making this up. But before dismantling Acho's ridiculous arguments, let's talk about what really happened in the game against Kansas City, because the narrative he created is completely distorted. First quarter, Williams started with difficulties. That's true. There was a fumble on the first play, but it wasn't exactly as Acho described. Williams attempted a handoff to Olamide Zaccheaus on a jet sweep, but the timing was off. Zaccheaus went past the handoff point too quickly. This happens especially in preseason games where adjustments are still being refined. Acho mentioned several unnecessary sacks, but in reality, there was only 1 sack against Williams during his time in the game. And yes, that was his fault. He held the ball for over 5 seconds until Coach Ben Johnson joked about the quality of protection before leaving the pocket and getting caught in an unavoidable sack. But here's what Acho conveniently forgot to mention. The 2-minute drill at the end of the first half was spectacular. Williams completed precision passes of 18 and 22 yards to Rome Odunze, showing exactly the type of field command and accuracy under pressure we want to see from our starting quarterback. Now onto the most ridiculous part of this. Whole story, Acho said, and I quote verbatim, is not a big deal. But when you look at the starting quarterback, the team leader, you want them to be fully geared up, want them to be someone the other teammates can emulate. It's something you can point to when there are penalties and it's sloppy. You say, man, this guy doesn't even care about the small things. Folks, this is so absurd, I don't even know where to start dismantling it. First, since when does sock length determine a player's leadership ability? Tom Brady played 23 seasons in the NFL and nobody ever analyzed his socks to determine if he was a leader. Second, Williams had no penalties in the game. How are you going to connect low socks with penalties when the guy wasn't even penalized? It's just a flawed logic. Third, and more importantly, leadership is measured by results on the field, by how you respond to adversity, by how you inspire your teammates. Williams led a 20-10 comeback at the end of the first half. That's leadership. You know the irony of this whole situation? There's a real issue with Williams' performance that deserves discussion, and Acho completely missed the focus by going after a superficial wardrobe critique. The real issue is Williams' slow start to find his rhythm at the beginning of games, especially in hostile environments on the road. And I have the numbers to prove it. In the 2024 season, Williams had a quarterback rating of just 78.8 in the first quarter of games, compared to 95.3 in the fourth quarter at an impressive 108.3 in overtime. This shows a clear trend. He improves as the game progresses, but takes time to adjust. Even more concerning, specifically in road games, this pattern becomes even more pronounced. His road first quarter rating was 80.8, rising to 94.6 by the fourth quarter. This suggests he has trouble adjusting to the noise of opposing crowds and the pressure of hostile environments. This should have been Acho's analysis focus. This is a tactical and mental challenge that can be worked on during the week, with real implications for the team's success. But no, he chose to talk about socks. To be fair to Williams, it's important to put his initial difficulties in context. He's only in his second NFL season, coming from USC where he played in a completely different system. Transitioning to Ben Johnson's system was always going to require adjustment time. Moreover, Williams showed clear progression during his rookie season. His numbers at the end of the season were consistently better than at the start, proving that he's capable of learning and adapting. The game against Buffalo at home was a perfect example of what Williams can do when he's comfortable. Exceptional accuracy in the pocket, quick defensive reads, perfect timing with receivers. The problem isn't technical ability, it's adapting to hostile environments. This Sox controversy exemplifies a larger problem in current sports media. The pursuit of controversial content that generates clicks and discussion, even when there's no real substance to debate. Show knows that criticizing a player's wardrobe will spark reactions on social media, make people talk about his comment. It's a calculated strategy for gaining relevance, but it doesn't add any real value to sports analysis. And the worst part is it distracts from the real discussion about Williams' development as a quarterback. Instead of talking about progression, in reads, timing with receivers, command of the offensive line, we're here debating Sox. Williams deserves a full defense in this situation because the criticism is fundamentally unfair and baseless. First, he is fulfilling all his responsibilities as a team leader. He's the first to arrive at practice, the last to leave, studies film religiously, and has the total respect of the locker room. Second, his community work and representation of the franchise have been exemplary. Williams has been the perfect ambassador for the Bears in Chicago, attending charitable events, interacting with fans, representing the organization with class. Third, and most importantly, he is constantly improving on the field. First quarter struggles are becoming smaller each game. His reads are faster. His chemistry with Rome Odunze is visibly evolving. If we're gonna criticize Williams, let it be for things that truly matter to football. Questioning his socks is lowering the level of sports discussion to a ridiculously superficial point. To understand the magnitude of the decision to release Samori Toure, I have to explain who this player is and why his cut is actually great news for the Bears. Toure was selected by the Green Bay Packers in the 7th round of the 2022 draft out of Nebraska. In 2 seasons with the Packers, he played 22 games, starting in 2 of them, recording 13 receptions for 160 yards and 1 touchdown. Modest numbers, but respectable for a late draft wide receiver. What's interesting is Toure managed to stay on the Packers roster for 2 full seasons, which isn't easy considering Green Bay's program quality and its tradition of developing receivers. He clearly has NFL talent. Toure joined the Bears in August 2024, signing with the practice squad after being waived by the Packers. During the 2024 season, he didn't play any regular season games but impressed sufficiently in practice to earn a future reserve contract in January 2025. This future contract indicated that the organization saw potential in Toure and wanted to give him a real shot at competing for a spot on the 53-man roster for 2025. And during training camp and preseason, he met expectations. Toure's preseason numbers were solid. 5 receptions for 72 yards in 3 games. An average of 14.4 yards per catch shows he was making significant plays, not just short receptions to pad stats. More important than the numbers, Toure showed versatility, playing both outside receiver and slot positions, and contributing significantly on special teams. He clearly worked hard to showcase his value in multiple ways. But here's the question. Even with a respectable preseason, Toure didn't crack the Bears roster, and that tells us a lot about the quality and depth of our wide receiver group. Let's analyze the wide receiver group that Ryan Poles has built because it's honestly impressive. DJ Moore, the undisputed WR1 coming off a season of over 1,300 receiving yards. Moore is one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL, capable of producing against any type of coverage. Rome Odunze, our first-round draft pick in 2024, who's already showing excellent chemistry with Caleb Williams. Odunze has the physique, 6'3", 212 pounds, and technical skills to be a WR1 in any team in the league. Olamide Zaccheaus had a phenomenal preseason, showing he can be the reliable slot receiver we need. Zaccheaus brings experience and versatility that are invaluable. Luther Burden III, our 2nd-round pick, and perhaps the wide receiver with the most upside of the entire draft. Burden has the speed to burn any cornerback and post-catch skills that remind you of some of the league's best playmakers. The decision to release Toure also reflects the offensive philosophy Ben Johnson is implementing. Johnson prefers to work with a smaller group of receivers who know the system perfectly, rather than carrying many players who may not master all the nuances. Johnson comes from Detroit, where he helped develop one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL with a relatively small but extremely efficient group of receivers. He believes in quality over quantity, and Toure's cut exemplifies this philosophy. Additionally, Johnson is implementing a system that requires perfect timing between quarterback and receivers. It's better to have 4 or 5 receivers who know every route perfectly than 6 or 7 still learning the nuances. Toure's release also shows Ryan Poles' maturity as a general manager. He could have kept Toure as a 6th receiver, but opted to use that spot to strengthen other positions or maintain depth in more critical areas. This decision shows Poles isn't sentimentally attached to players he himself brought into the organization. If a player doesn't fit the current plan, they're moved on, regardless of their history or potential. The good news for Toure is that a wide receiver with his credentials will likely be quickly claimed by another team. Several NFL teams are looking for depth at the position, and Toure showed enough in preseason to warrant an opportunity. Teams like the New England Patriots, Las Vegas Raiders, and Tennessee Titans could benefit from adding a receiver with NFL experience and versatility to play multiple positions and special teams. For longtime Bears fans, this decision marks an important philosophical change. How many times have we seen the organization keep players for unrealized potential or sunk cost investment? With Poles and his new administration, we see a more business-like approach. If you don't fit the current plan, you're moved, regardless of sentimental factors. This is the mindset of winning organizations. The release of Toure sends a clear message. The Bears believe they have enough talent at the position to compete at the highest level now. They're no longer in development mode. They're in competition mode. When you release a player with NFL experience to fully bet on young talents, you're saying you believe these young players are ready to contribute immediately. This is the confidence we want to see from our front office. Folks, after everything you've heard in the last 18,000 characters, I have a simple question. Do you still have any doubts that this 2025 season will be special for the Chicago Bears? Let's quickly recap what we discovered today. Tyson Bagent secured his financial future and proved the Bears have the best backup quarterback in the NFL. A performance of 20 out of 28, 212 yards, and 3 TDs against Kansas City, sealed with a $10 million contract, shows that this organization finally knows how to recognize and reward talent. Caleb Williams is dealing with absolutely ridiculous criticism about his socks while doing exactly what needs to be done. Consistently improving his timing, developing chemistry with Rome Odunze, and demonstrating command in the huddle. The wardrobe criticism is a pure distraction by people with nothing substantial to say. The release of Samori Toure proves we have the deepest wide receiver roster Chicago has ever had. When you release a player who had respectable numbers with the Packers simply because there's no room on your roster, that's evidence of abundant talent. So tell me in the comments, and I really want to know your opinions. Which of these 3 news stories generated more excitement for the upcoming season? Do you think Bagent's extension was smart business or an overpay? Is Sam Acho's sock criticism of Williams valid or completely ridiculous? Does Toure's release show confidence or arrogance from the front office? And here's a bonus question. I want you to debate, considering everything that's happened this offseason, the hiring of Ben Johnson, Williams' development, the depth we've created in the roster, the culture change we're seeing. How many games do you think the Bears will win in 2025? I honestly believe we're looking at a playoff team, folks. And I'm not saying this just as an optimistic fan. I'm saying this based on concrete evidence of what this organization has built. For our new viewers, if you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who takes Bears football seriously. This is our family here, and you're more than welcome. Hit that subscribe button now, because I guarantee tomorrow we'll have more explosive news. For our longtime subscribers, you are the real MVPs. You've been with us through the tough years, endured all the frustrations, and now you're here. To witness this transformation, share this video with your Bears fan friends because they need to know what's happening. And don't forget, like this video. If you believe Ryan Poles is building something special, share if you want more people to know about this transformation. And comment, because I read all the comments and respond as much as I can. Next week, it's gonna be insane, folks. We have just 13 days until the regular season opener, and I have a feeling we'll have even more bombshell news until then. Until next time, Bears family, bear down, and let's make this season absolutely unforgettable.